We can go live now. We are taking this from Mr. Sam George's page. He's a member of Parliament for Ningo Pram Pram. We'll be bringing you our own feed shortly. But in the meantime, this is what we have from the NDC Minority Press Conference on the back of the Sona.
Those of you who know IT well, the minutiae of a fingerprint is superior to that of a facial recognition. Therefore, we would not accept the excuse of an improved thing. The Akufo-Addo-led government, we cannot help but agree with the U.S. State Department Human Rights Report, which has raised concerns of possible voter suppression in opposition strongholds as a real intention for the needless and wasteful new voter register is to suppress our voters in the Volta region, and particularly in the Zangos and other areas where there are settlers in Ghana, as you've seen them do to those struggling for national ID card. Even my mother, they had to turn her away when she wanted a national ID. Until my senior brother intervened and did the documentation. So many more, those at her age, are not looking for opportunities at queuing. Every opportunity, go and queue for voter register, come and queue for national ID. Ghanaians want the dividends of democracy, not the continuous queuing. Under President Nana Addo Dankwa, media freedoms and freedom of expression have come under unprecedented attacks. You saw the investigative journalist Ahmed Hussein Swale assassinated in cold blood. You don't need to ask why, because they needed to destroy evidence for purpose of prosecution. Despite demands from the international community for action, many journalists continue to be attacked, with others having to seek refuge outside the jurisdiction. You know, it's not for nothing, and the NDC will take pride and credit that we liberalized the airways of Ghana. By the time we left office, the number of television stations had exceeded 200, radio stations over 300. It was to give meaning to freedom of expression as an ingredient for multi-party constitutional democracy. You cannot have a democracy without freedom of expression. And freedom of expression cannot stand without manifestations of what you do as media practitioners, the opportunity and the platform to do it. You see how all of a sudden radio stations that are critical of them, you've seen the Gestapo closures of those radio stations, including Radio Gold, Radio XYZ, and many others, Radio Tongwe and Fox FM. And I gave you the example. I was Minister for Communication. There were many times that many of you, radio and TV, you were in arrears of your obligations. It didn't mean that we should shut you down. We could. We had the same power on Monday. We could. Because there was a breach of you not settling some fees and others. No, we did not, because of the good of our democracy, that you media men and women contribute to its sustenance and exposing our wrongdoings. Therefore, we needed you to keep the platform. The growing culture of impunity and the tyrant that has reached alarming proportions once again on the prowl, when agents of national security demolish businesses belonging to Ghanaians in the private sector. You've seen what happened to Raymond Archer. He's not alone. There are many Ghanaian businesses today who are suffering because they are NDC or related to NDC. We even executed contracts under the NDC and are suffering. They will pay those current and refuse to deal with arrears that accumulated. You've seen what they have done, and you've seen the defense to the destruction of the trade fair. As noted, these are not normal times. Desperate times call for desperate measures. If you see a pregnant goat in the market, it means there's a pregnant problem at home. So that's why you saw us in black. I'll pay royalties to him. And that's why we had to work out to set a strong signal. Our tradition is credited for laying the foundation for the Fourth Republic. Many of you, if you recall what happened in 1993, we ushered in multi-party constitutional democracy, which has survived in the last 25, 27 years, and will survive because we jealously protect and safeguard it against the oppressor's rule. We've reminded the President that Ghana belongs to all of us, and so shall we all stand to defend the democracy we've all labored for. Like Thomas Jefferson, we declare, I've sworn upon the altar of God, eternal hostility against every form of tyranny over the mind of man. Over the mind of man. So, ladies and gentlemen of the press, don't go and speculate why minority walk out. We are walking out because if these matters that you consider trivial are allowed to nature as they are, we do not see the future of our democracy. Today, even recruitment into the security agencies is now done secretly instead of open advertisement to the Ghanaian public. And yet we cannot question that. We need to question the loyalty of those citizens who enter the Ghana Police Service, the Immigration Service, the Ghana Armed Forces, and the Navy, because we don't want persons with doubtful loyalties to belong to those institutions of state, and for it to become a converting grounds for party vigilante groups who threaten them that if you don't give us a job, we'll deal with you. We fear that they will mar the beauty of our democracy. I'll be happy to take a few questions from you. Any of my colleagues who wants to translate can proceed, and then after that we'll take a few questions.
So that is from the NDC Minority Press Conference, kind courtesy Sam George's own Facebook page, where we took that from. We've just been listening in there to the minority leader, Haruna Idrisu, laid out from the past that we caught at least 3 reasons why they walked out on the State of the Nation address this morning. One, they cited the voters register controversy, believing that the way the EC is handling this will lead to a situation where the elections will not be free and fair. They also talks about what they believe to be an attack on the freedom of the media, which they believe, again, is eroding the country's democratic principles and its foundation, and also mention some deliberate targeting of people perceived to be aligned or affiliated with the opposition NDC. A particular mention was made of Mr. Raymond Archer, whose printing business, was affected recently at trade fair. And so far, those are the 3 reasons that we've heard from the particular press conference. As we currently still watching this now unfold in Parliament, the minority chief whip, Muntaka Mubarak, is currently also addressing that gathering right now and narrating what had been said to our local language networks. And we're going to stay with that and see if we get more from there. We'll bring that to you. So the minority now officially explaining why they walked out on the president when he just began the State of the Nation address. And if I guess no surprises there. These are things that we expected was going to be the reasons, and so it turned out.
Of course, but the reasons they've given so far, some wonder if indeed they are good enough reasons for the action that they took today, considering the international, presence that we had in Parliament today. Earlier also, this issue about the monies, MPs Common Fund, the monies about the MPs Common Fund that was supposed to be paid to them also came up. They earlier stated that they were going to boycott if that was not paid. But interestingly, that is not coming up in the reasons that they are given. We don't know if those monies have been paid. Of course, when we reach our parliamentary correspondent, would find out from them if that was part of the reasons they gave. But as we've watched from Sam George's Facebook page, the reasons they've given, as you've outlined, didn't include the monies for which reason they threatened to boycott. So it remains to be seen what really are the underlying reasons why they have staged that boycott today. Yeah,
of course. I mean, that press conference is still underway in Parliament. In the meantime, it has divided opinion around the conduct of the minority in parliament, but also the State of the Nation address itself. I mean, you either look at the substance of what the president said and disagree or agree, or you look at the walkout, which is a controversial bit, which, if you look at social media, appears to be what people are talking about, whether or not it was right for the minority to take the decision that they took to walk out, or, you know, they had a justifiable cause. And if you look at the views that we have, people are sharing varied opinions, both on the substance of what the president said, and also comparing that to what their own state of the nation is.
Well, so on WhatsApp, many people are not happy with what the minority did. This one says, how can Ghana move forward if politicians keep scoring political goals against each other? Of course, also on Facebook, like you said, people are talking about their true state of the nation, plus commenting on what happened in Parliament today. Most people are actually not focusing on what the president said at this point, because all attention has been shifted to this boycott. Gideon from Asherman says the president was not truthful when he talked about Dunso. Dunso was over before he came to power. And this one says, Atemuda Joel says, please, is Honorable Idrisu telling us that because of freedom of speech and media freedom, our constitution and laws should stop, so we're living in an unlawful state? We hear our lawmakers in Parliament for NDC. And this one says, SONA 2020, state of unemployment in the nursing fraternity is increasing at an alarming rate in recent times. So we're pleading with the president to act promptly to arrest the menace. And this one says, what kind of persons do these NPP guys see themselves to be? The only people with red blood running through their veins is the question he's asking. When they boycotted, not just walked out, SONA in 2013, were they undermining our democracy? People bringing back what happened in the past. And this one says, walk away MPs are showing that they represent themselves and their political party, but definitely not the people who voted to make them MPs. Democracy is supposed to guarantee representation and responsibility to the electorate. Asamoah Yao of Kumasi sent that one in Evans, telling you that most people are not happy about what the minority did in Parliament today. Archie from Ebri says, are we serious as citizens? Lawmakers reacting in this manner as a country with this attitude? I don't think we can really be greater and or better until we change and renew our minds. Archie from Ebri also sent that one in. Evans, if you don't mind, I'll give you more of these messages that they've sent in. This one from Sandy in Dansuman, and she says, the alternative is scary. This country is where we are now because we entrusted the nation in these hands, she says. So this one also says, NDC and MPP are the same. They should give us a break. She says, it has no name. Okay, so I don't know who that is coming from.
Even if you take the subject about the walkout, there have been times when MPP were they were either in opposition, in fact, when they were in opposition, had boycotted or walked out on major state events before. I don't recall one about the State of the Nation, I must say. I don't recall when the NPP, then in minority, had walked out on the State of the Nation address. But there have been many walkouts on other issues before that both sides had done in the past once they disagree with an issue and had raised concerns about them. I mean, we always say in parliamentary terms, the majority side, well, the minority side will have their say, but the majority side will always have their way, and which has always played out. And then what that means is that sometimes you boycott, sometimes you walk out. And so clearly from what we've seen, that hasn't stopped, except that because it's a State of the Nation address, it's generated a lot of controversy because the president himself was in attendance. We can go back live now to Parliament, where the minority is still addressing the press. We're now having journalists covering this, asking questions of the minority. Let's listen in.
Vice President's wife was also mentioned as being in the chamber. Is it the case that the NDC is divided on this fight? Because if you were united, your founder, Jerry John Rawlings, should have also worked out with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. No, thank you very much. No, you are seeking to divide us. We are one strong, united party, but this is the minority caucus, an organ of the party. leading the party in parliament. This is our collective decision. They probably were invited as guests of the speaker and guests of the house. That is done as a normal routine, and that should not worry you. On voter register, we have said that we are signaling and demanding an end to the efforts, actions, and policies of Nana Addo Dankwa that is eroding our democratic gains. I'll take the second question.
Ibrahim Al-Hassan, GH1 TV, Star FM. Leader, first of all, the boycott is done. The debate is scheduled for Tuesday. Would you and your members take part in debating the content of President Akufo-Addo's State of the Nation address? That's one. Two, after you exited, members of the majority made their way to occupy your seat. Specifically, your seat, Honorable Hannah Idris, was occupied by Assam Central MP Kennedy Japan. Per your standing orders, is that allowed?
Go to the rules and see whether they could walk across, and then you advise yourself accordingly. Next question. The debate, the caucus will meet and take a decision. But I hear some of you go to the record in 2013. There was a boycott of State of the Nation address. So 2013, it's not the first answer I'll share with you. No, you leave it there. I have the Hansard of 21st February up to 26th February, and then in March, we will take a decision that is appropriate in the national interest of our country. But at least we listen to excess of it. A president who is not ashamed that excavators are missing. He says they are missing. So it's normal in Ghana now that excavators can be missing in a country. So no debate. Yes, bro. Third one.
My name is Riku Sekedanso. I report for GhanaMPs.com. Minority Leader, I just want to find out your crusade against oppressors' rule. Should we expect you back in the chamber tomorrow, and how long are you prepared to go this haul?
Parliament is not just to debate State of the Nation address. Go to Article 93. It provides elaborate. You can go through 179, 182, 106, 103. It tells you what we should do as members of Parliament. We have a duty. We have just exercised one of the opportunities available to us. We are representatives of the people, and even in these matters, it's not wrong for MPs to consult their constituents on what to do.
My name is Charles Akofi, TVXYZ. Leader, I'm interested to know why you chose this year to work out on SONA. I mean, these concerns that you explained when you were reading your speech are concerns or are things that you've spoken about time without number. Why did you choose this year to work out? Is it because it's an election year and you want to send a clear message out there?
Probably whether the president has chosen to be insensitive to ignore us, we just want him to know that he too can be ignored and ignored by the Ghanaian people.
Well, oh, okay, maybe.
Come close.
My name is Kwesi Kumsian of the Punch newspaper. Leader, are you going to extend or register your protest to the international community in view, in respect of the new register? Because it seems all what some of us were thinking you would do, you've done it. The demonstration has gone on and other things. So the next step is what we want to see.
We have heard you. An earlier question was to voter register. Those of you who have read basic theories of democracy, a credible voter register is a sine qua non to the conduct of free and fair elections, and quote, we will demand that this register is credible and one acceptable to us as a stakeholder of a political party. Maybe remind the chairperson of the Electoral Commission that I don't see anywhere in the world where there is a functioning Electoral Commission without buoyant political parties like the National Democratic Congress.
Hello, my name is Julius. I report for the Ghanaian Times. Leader, I would want to know why you decided to spring a surprise on all of us, because you escorted the majority leader and speaker, received the president, and then you decided to walk out. Why did you do it that way?
It was not a boycott, it was a walkout. We acknowledge him as our guest, consistent with he coming to respect the Constitution, which is the ground norm of our country under Article 67. But because he's been impervious to our concerns and dismissive of legitimate issues we raise that threatens the future of our democracy and its sustenance, we want him to know that his right to refuse to listen can also end at our right not to listen to him. The young man asked a question about international community. The international community, we quoted the U.S. State Department on Human Rights. So they are already aware of our concerns on this matter, and will continue to engage them. In a multi-party constitutional democracy, the landscape is for political parties to contribute through interest aggregation and policy, and participate not just in the shaping of policy, but in competitive elections. We think that they are enabling us deliberately, and we take objection to that. Today it is them, tomorrow it may not be them.
When the warning first came of a possible boycott, Honorable Haruna Idrisu, when the warning first came of a possible boycott sometime last week from the MP for Boedi Samsinahi, he linked that directly with the non-payment of the MP share of the District Assembly Commons Fund. And he made the point that following a minority caucus meeting, the decision was that unless those monies are released, the minority was going to boycott the President's State of the Nation address. My question is, how come you've left that out of the concerns you're raising for which you are? And secondly, has that money been paid to you yet?
I don't determine when that money is paid, but that is not one of our considered issues. So leave it at that. It is not, and it cannot be a reason to justify our walkout. We've shared with you, and it's not a boycott, it's a walkout. And it has nothing to do with those trivial matters. Treat them as a trifle. Your second part.
So, the Member of Parliament for Fasia Iribi and Information Minister Kojo Ponkruma has made the point that while the minority bid today sets a bad precedent, which could result in future opposition sides also going that way, and he says what you did is a shame and it's not good for the country's democracy.
I'm happy that he acknowledges that tomorrow we can constitute government. That's good to know and hear. Thank you. And he will be on the other side in opposition. That is the nature of it. In 2013, he wasn't here when they boycotted. Ours, we walked out, not a boycott. I'll take two more questions and then bring proceedings to a close.
My name is Angel Sapon. I report for TV Africa. I want to know that is the NDC going to apologize to Ghanaians since they walk out? I just want to know if you are going to apologize since you walk out when the national anthem was ongoing, and also if the NDC is going to take, if the NDC has a case, why don't they take the registrar, the new voters register?
Look, we are are capable of surviving the NDC. When we say this is a bill, we are willing about the box. We can answer the question.
Yes, so allow me to. My second question was that I want to know that if the NDC will take the case to court, why don't they take the case to court since they have a problem?
I'm present when you say, and the person will say, NDC, mobile patch of Ama Ghana for say, Buki, Brana, national anthem, that's what I was. And I say, the person will say, NDC, no, more a case, I didn't have more problem now for court. On the new voters register.
Affluent with the tree. Bedi kind of my man church almost say national anthem with him last stanza no. And help us to resist oppressors through it all our will and might forevermore. Oh na ewie national anthem there ya can we. And the Yasana, it is not true that the national anthem no cost on a DPA. There also may know, also, I don't know if I ask them no court. Sebu Obiani, Quaya of us, our dream say, Assemble, Wonka. Say, we hear say a cocotra, you don't cocotte.
And then we walked with a will. You know what the will means. So we're walking with the will left to us. And might available to us.
Mr. Drisu,
we'll take one more.
Mr. Drisu,
no, but allow him. No, you are permitted.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm Daniel Dazi, I work at Joy FM.
Joy, that's it.
February 2013 boycotts that you referred to. Some would say it was different because that was not the only activity by then president which was boycotted. The NPP had then challenged Mr. Mohammed's presidency, and so they decided to boycott every other activity which legitimized him as president, which is why they did not enter the chamber at all. They say that in this case, you have demonstrated bad faith by welcoming the president into the chamber and then walking out.
So which is better? Which one is better? Which one is better?
At least,
the due respect?
At least, Dazi, I thank you for educating many of us and our colleagues that at least there was a boycott. And that boycott was by some group who today may describe today's conduct in their ways. So there was a boycott. So president was set. Now read the provisions of Articles 60 to 64 of the Constitution. Even whilst questioning the legitimacy of the president, it provides that even when a determination of the matter is made, decisions and actions taken by him are legitimate and lawful. Thank you.
And just to add, Dazi, when the Electoral Commission declares someone as winner, until the court turns it down, what is that person? So when there's the matter is before an independent institution that you believe in, why do you do that? But let me tell you, it's a legitimate parliamentary practice all around the world. You saw the Speaker of Congress told President Trump's State of Nation address right behind him. There are so many legitimate processes of registering a protest, and this is one of it, and we have exercised it.
Maybe I should borrow Nancy Pelosi's word. The alternative could be worse. So the best option was what we exercised. And then I want to thank you once again, and colleagues, distinguished ladies and gentlemen of the media, for your purposes again. I understand some citizens of Ghana who chose to picket and also protest. Openly, the police said they should open hot water on them. The very threat to the democracy. So Dazi and your colleagues, we cherish what you are doing. You are doing a super job at Joy FM. Can you imagine if we just got up one day and said that Joy FM was closed down because of delay in payment of some obligations to the state? I'm just giving you an example. So don't reduce this matter to the opposition minority. We are saying that credible voter register a minimum requirement to the conduct of free and fair elections. The political accountability rules provide that this year there will be parliamentary and presidential election. We are saying that Ghanaians are being denied the opportunity to legitimately, freely express themselves. Potent danger to our democracy. We are being ignored as a major political party even when we make an input. As I speak to you, I understand that the Electoral Commission is abroad, engaged in some registration for OPA. Constitutionally, they have chosen some countries, not all countries. Those rights are not divisible. What elections will they participate in? Public elections, presidential, parliamentary. So for Asawasi and Tamale South tomorrow, we'll wait for some results to come from New York or Brussels or China or Nigeria before we make a determination. That right, guaranteed under the Constitution, citizens shall participate in public elections. Consultation is important. The principle of Ghanaians being entitled to the right guaranteed under the Constitution will be respected. But the process and procedure that can undermine the credibility and integrity of the election remains dear to our heart. We thank you for coming.
So that is a minority addressing their own press conference today. One, to explain why they walked out on the State of the Nation address. Two, to lay a roadmap of what is going to come. And they indicated the fundamental question from this press conference was, so you walked out on the State of the Nation address just when the president was about to deliver the address, but will you participate in the discussions, in the debate on the address once Parliament resumes for that purpose? Well, you heard the response there from the minority leader. His position is that that's a decision that they will take as a caucus, considering what to do about this particular subject of debating the State of the Nation address, something you've boycotted. Can you participate then? Will it be, will you have the moral justification to participate in that debate? We're waiting a firm decision on that. He says that is something that they will decide. But he says that they will participate. Tomorrow they'll be back in Parliament, participating in all the business of Parliament. Now, there's also a question about the propriety of what has happened. It's been described by the majority side as irresponsible, as shameful, as a dereliction of their constitutional mandate, and the decision to disregard their representatives, the people that they're representing in Parliament, as in their constituents, because they've been sent there to represent their views, particularly also participating in a constitutionally mandated event such as the State of the Nation is. As you've seen it play out in social media comments we've been sharing with you, there is a sense that this is condemned by a lot of people as far as the decision to walk out is concerned. The minority had a few reasons to put forward as to why they did that. One, they believe that the president's decision not to listen when it comes to the issues surrounding the voters register is one. Secondly, that they also believe that democracy is under threat, and they describe the president as an oppressor. And that's part of the reason why they decided to walk out. In fact, the minority leader makes the point that if the president has decided to ignore their concerns, then they will also show him that he can also be ignored by the minority and also the people that they represent. In essence, those were the reasons that they had put forward today for boycotting. As to whether these reasons are enough, and the question was put to the minority leader about whether these are justifiable grounds for walking out on a State of the Nation address as they did. The first time that has happened, by the way. And he believes they are justified because really, last week, they hinted they will boycott. They will boycott the State of the Nation address. And the reason, you heard my colleague Joseph Opoku-Gakpo ask that question, the reason that was assigned last week after a caucus meeting of the minority was that the MPs have not been paid their share of the District Assembly's common fund. And they believe that was sabotage in the election year and the reason why they're going to boycott the State of the Nation address if that is not paid. Well, yes, they didn't boycott it, but they walked out. The two things. When that question was asked of him, why didn't he mention that particular reason that was given last week as part of his litany of reasons for walking out today? He, in essence, says, well, that wasn't a boycott. This is a walkout. And so two different things that had happened over the period. Now, there's also a reference that is made to, is this the first time something like this is happening surrounding the State of the Nation address? Well, the minority points to a 2013 boycott of the State of the Nation delivered by John Dramani Mahama just immediately after that very contentious elections in 2012. They say that the minority then, that is the NPP side, boycotted that State of the Nation address, and that this is not new. The minority had done it before. Now, as you heard my colleague put forward to the minority leader, my colleague Danodazi put forward to the minority leader, that the circumstances under which that boycott happened were different. At that time, the minority, remember, the current president had taken the matter up at the Supreme Court, challenging the outcome of that election in 2012, in claiming that the outcome of the election wasn't a fair representation of what actually happened. That was a subject of a court litigation. And the minority then, the MPP, had decided that until that is decided, they would not participate in any formal events with the then president-elect John Dramani Mahama because they believed he was not a legitimate president. And that is why they're taking that stance. Now, that question was put to the minority leader today, and he says, well, in essence, the precedent is one, that it's happened, that they boycotted the State of the Nation address, and so this, in essence, it's not new.